welcome to the Laughta Show on NBC, your favourite go-to podcast to discover and connect with some of the hottest Arab artists globally. My name is Laughta, and today I have a very likeable guest for you. He's already had a few hits under his belt. He has put the A before the pop, and he's just getting started. He goes by the name of Molham.
Ahlan wa sahlan.
Oh my, it's incredible to have you here.
That's very kind of you, by the way. What an intro.
Welcome to the Laughta Show. You have been very busy.
I have. I just flew in from Cairo. We were filming. And I'm flying back in the morning. We have a lot more filming to do as well. So it's that season, you know.
Do you know what? That doesn't surprise me as to why you're being recognized for your hard work on big platforms. You're someone that really works hard, and we're going to get into it in the rest of the show, because you're not just a musician, you're an entrepreneur as well. You're very focused, and I just want to get into it. Forbes, Middle East, 30 under 30. What was that moment like for you to be featured in such a big, feature like that?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a culmination of a lot of things, a mix of things on the music side, but also things on the business front, which I don't really frankly talk about a lot. So I think it was an interesting kind of, quote unquote, public stamp of approval of a lot of things that have been happening privately for such a long time. So even though I wasn't as loud about that part of my life, that kind of, brought it a bit more to the forefront, because it was a recognition for, both sides of really who I am, right? And I think, with socials and kind of how the world works, people only see you the way you publicize yourself, when there's like so many layers to who we are and what we do, and based on what you choose to put out is how people will kind of perceive you, which has been an interesting thing for me to like think about a lot, because I'm only quite public about the music side of things, not much else. So again, that was a interesting stamp of approval, maybe you can call it that. Maybe you can call it like a piece of recognition, which I appreciated, because the years prior to that there was a lot that had been in the works. So it was an interesting point, which always gets me to think, like, with a lot of these things, and I was telling my team this as well, that's, first of all, it's not just a recognition of me, frankly, but a lot of people that have made so much of both sides a reality, both on the music front and on the business front. I couldn't do it without a massive team, honestly, that are incredible. And honestly, they do so much to make it appear that it's, just me at the forefront or whatever it is, but it really isn't. So that's kind of one part of it, I'd say. But another part of it for me is, rather than use it as kind of this, end point, which by no means is it that, I see it as, a point, just kind of like a milestone on the way of where we're trying to go, and a very early milestone, if I can say that as well. I don't see it as kind of like this, this like, end of the road. No, for me, it's just a nice kind of, thumbs up on the way to where we're ultimately trying to go.
There's this idea that you should just be a full-time musician, and that's what makes you a successful artist. I can say this from personal experience as well. So let's take it back a little bit. When did you discover your passion for music? So you grew up in Canada, right? But born in Jeddah. Talk us through when you first discovered music as a passion.
Music's always been a part of my life. I think I grew up, in the back of the car, listening to my dad put on Feiruz, Michael Jackson, the mix of both. It was such a
legendary
dichotomy of like artists, ABBA.
Wow, we need to be in that car.
Yeah, Mariah Carey. And it was such a, interesting perspective to kind of have, frankly. So it's kind of always been a part of my life, I'd say. My grandfather was great friends with Talal Maddah, who is a Saudi icon and legend in music. So it's kind of always, to some degree as well, run in the family, I'd say. But it wasn't until probably middle school where I really kind of felt, I think I used to get bored in like math class. And so I used to kind of like jot down some of the things that would happen in class. Like one kid would get like kicked out, the other kid would, cause some trouble in the class. Like there was a lot of, shenanigans that happen in a middle school of just all boys. So I would just write about that stuff. And, at the end of the class, for some reason, I don't know why he did this, but the math teacher knew about it. And so the last 2 minutes, he would let me just like perform the piece that I wrote about everything that was going on. And so, you know,
sounds so great for me.
I mean, he kind of gave me like a stage within my classroom to some degree. So I got to give props to him.
Cool teacher.
Really cool teacher.
Yeah.
Great guy. I mean, I was also a relatively good student, so I think that's why he let me off the hook.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't, I was like, so, but the class would just go crazy because I was talking about them. And so that kind of taught me something about songwriting, which is, you know, it's not about you. Sometimes it is, and you kind of have to come from a real place. But at the same time, people, when they're listening to what you're putting out, they have to some degree, see themselves in what you're putting out. So, and there was no clearer example than that because I was talking about them and their stories. Hence why they were going crazy about it. And I kept that with me throughout my life as I've written songs, even when they're very personal to me.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I love that. And you've coined your own term, A-pop.
Yeah.
I introduced you saying you've put the A before the pop. What does that sound represent to you? And can I ask also how it's different from what's out there as well?
Yeah, I think especially different to what's out there then when I first put it out, which is probably around 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, at that point when I was making music, I just transitioned from doing, at that point, just a little bit of English to songs that were predominantly Arabic, but had a Western feel to them. And so when I would speak even sometimes to the streaming services or, you know, record labels or whatnot, generally they would ask like, what type of music do you make? And I didn't really there was no name for it at that point, frankly. It was kind of its own unique sound. I couldn't even find other artists to collaborate with within that sound. So K-pop was a big thing at that time. And so it was K-pop. It wasn't that crazy of a, you know, stretch to go like A-pop, you know, something that was a little bit different. But also true to who he was. So it was Arabic lyrics mixed in with, you know, Western melodies and possibly Western production, but also sometimes Arabic production as well. It was kind of the space that I could explore for myself. Again, not wanting to be boxed in, right? I would make music that didn't necessarily have a label to it at that point and gave it essentially a classification that I thought, you know, was fitting. And at that point, you know, a lot of other artists across the region started putting out, you know, similar types of music as well. Right. Maybe not as much from Saudi, but Jordan, Egypt, Palestine, Syria as well. So I was very happy to see that there was a lot more of an embrace for Arabic music by a lot of the artists that are coming up at the moment as well.
Yeah, like you said, there's K-pop. Why can't we have A-pop?
Yeah.
That's something we definitely should keep pushing forward. Our identity is that we're Arabs. That's something we need to always embrace and have incorporated in one way or another. I know your music has had a lot of English and Arabic blends. I love your music. I think you've got very catchy melodies. It's the ultimate definition of ear candy. You really know how to craft songs and really have catchy sections, breakdown sections, the story, the concept, strong from start to finish. You've mentioned that A-pop is a difficult genre in some sense because while you're putting simple Arabic in, you still have to find that balance between putting in the poetic side of Arabic.
Absolutely. And that's been the trickiest thing. And hence why I don't think a lot of people have done this type of genre. I mean, I'd get briefs from, even when I work with brands to create music for them as well. The briefs that I would get would have references in them, and the references would be just literally all my songs. Ooh. And it's just for the fact that, you know, no one's really delved into this area as much because it is very tricky to do, frankly, I'd say. And it requires to some degree, and I think I've been blessed with this, and no credit to myself, it was really more to my parents. And they took me to Canada when I was very, very young. I went when I was 5. Okay. And so between the ages of 5 to 9, I lived in Canada, grew up in Canada. So I didn't really learn, quote unquote, English. I was just, you know, thrown into like a classroom, and at some point I understood what they were saying.
Yes.
And could replicate those words.
I can relate
if you know
to
what
this.
I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So when people even ask me like, what do you think is your native language? I say both, Arabic and English, really. So when it comes to thinking about how to create songs that have simple Arabic words, but Western melodies, and kind of have something that, you know, a melody that people globally can resonate with and relate to, that is a very tricky line to, you know, walk, because most of what we're used to in Saudi or Fil Khalij, in the GCC overall, are pieces of poetry, essentially, written exquisitely well in Arabic and then performed, right? So when you compare that to kind of, more simplistic words that generally maybe are obviously a lot more in hip hop, right? You'll find those in hip hop, and to kind of find the balance between hip hop simple words and shi'r and poetry in traditional Arabic music, traditional Saudi music, somewhere in the middle to explore this area is, uncharted territory. So I didn't really have a blueprint per se, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
That's so interesting. Even when I started to dabble in my Arabic, I can resonate with a lot of what you were saying, by the way. I remember being thrown into a classroom in London at the age of 7, didn't speak English, and I was like,
really?
They're not going to teach you how to speak English. You just have to pick it up. And luckily, I think if I'd got there when I was like 8 or 9, I probably wouldn't have picked up the language.
It's just that specific cusp, exactly.
Where your brain allows through, I think it's just observing, and your brain is still developing, you're able to pick up the language. So yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. And when I started to dabble with the English language, the Arabic language in my music, I was worried, is it good enough Arabic? Is it? But at the same time, my native tongues are English and Arabic.
Yeah.
I'm Lebanese, and it's okay to be true to who you are. I might not have the most strongest Arabic, but I'm going to put in what I'm used to speaking and using and understanding in my culture, and throw in those words because that's what represents me. And it's okay just to do that as well. I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to be excellent and exceptional at the language form we use and make no error. But I don't think it matters as much. I'm not saying be awful at it, but I'm saying we don't need to have that much pressure on ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. And I've definitely been guilty of that for sure.
Yeah.
Because, with this genre specifically, doing it within Saudi and it being kind of, here's the other thing. Dialects are a big thing. People don't think about dialects as much. When you do a song in Saudi dialect, the majority of your audience is going to be Saudi, generally speaking. Rarely will it be otherwise, for the specific reason that who are the people that generally understand Saudi dialect? It's people within Saudi, within the GCC, generally speaking. But for the most part, if you look at kind of how music is kind of listened to, even if you look at the charts or if you look at generally just on the streets what people are listening to, people in, for instance, Egypt, they're not really listening to kind of Khaliji music as much, right? People in Lebanon, same thing. Versus people in Saudi listen to a lot of Egyptian music, generally speaking.
Okay.
And it's mostly because Egypt, for the last couple of decades, has been the cultural hub of the Arabic world in general, of the Arab world overall. So their dialect of Arabic has, generally speaking, been what's at the forefront of culture, both music and film overall. So if you listen to even some of the biggest hits that come out of Lebanon, right, they will be in Egyptian dialect.
Oh yeah, Nancy Ajram.
Yeah.
As much as I love her and I'm so patriotic and I think she represents Lebanon, she does use the Egyptian dialect. And that's fine.
And at the end of the day, we're all Arab.
Yeah.
If ما فرقت, there's no difference there. الفكرة, just to even particularly point on what I'm trying to say, is dialect in music matters a lot.
Yeah.
And hence why, even for my case, when I decided to do A-pop, I want to stay true to myself and do what I essentially wanted to do in Saudi Arabic, specifically in Saudi dialect.
Yeah.
And so that comes with its own pros and cons, opportunities and challenges.
Yeah, I couldn't shift to any other dialect. My Arabic is strictly Lebanese.
Yeah.
So if I tried to do anything, it would be sounding like me trying to do the American English language, and I'm awful at doing accents and switching it up. So it's better just to be true to yourself.
I know what you mean. I mean, I did one song that was Egyptian, and frankly, it was dialect is fantastic. I had a lot of people, check it as well. And I could have gone down that route, but it just wasn't true to who I am, if that makes sense. I like that song a lot. It's called Ansaki. Great song, in my opinion. I enjoyed making it, and I think a lot of people enjoy listening to it. But again, that route, going down that, wouldn't be true to myself. But generally speaking, and this maybe is where we can jump in a little bit and at some point talk about like why I'm deciding to shift.
That's the next question on my list. So you've spoken a lot and you do it so beautifully with the A-pop, which you've said again, and you've got the English and Arabic fusion. But I remember a recent conversation we had at XP. You just very briefly mentioned to me that you're shifting completely to full English spoken language when it comes to music. has this actually happened now, and why?
Yeah, so with a little bit of Arabic still in there.
Okay,
right? Yeah,
okay.
For the most part. Arabic's always going to be there somehow. So there's kind of, I look at it as 4 components, right? And I'm someone that breaks things down. This is just how my brain works,
I love
right?
it.
But it's production, it's melody, it's lyrics, and then it's the visual as well, right? So me being who I am, I'm fully Saudi, there's always going to be a part of that in at least one of the 4, if not 2 or 3 of them at a given time, right? So think of production. There's so much to do there in terms of incorporating what Saudi globally can be consumed as, right? In terms of what that looks like. We're exploring a ton there. In terms of melodies, right? Even though if it's let's say a Western beat or Western production, some of the Arabic melodies infused with that is just so unique. Not a lot of people have really heard what that's like. Then you think about lyrics, right? So lyrics, using Arabic where I feel like I want to use it, you know what I mean? As opposed to even heta. So sometimes even if a song for me is like all written in English, I won't throw Arabic in there just to throw Arabic in there. You know what I mean? I feel like some people try to, sometimes force it, and I don't like to do that. I like to feel the song, and if it requires it, and if I feel like that is what I want to do and say, then I'll throw it in there for like a line or 2 lines or however, again, I feel. I go off of like feeling, because the way I feel about the song myself is how I think a lot of people will also feel when they listen to it as well. Intention into the songs that I make, into the records, is more than ever at the top of my mind. What space I'm in when I'm creating the song, what I was just thinking about, how I'm actually feeling. Sometimes, you'll do a take, it'll be your first take, and then you just go with that one because it's the most raw, it's the most real. And so people can, it's so difficult to describe, but it's just such it's like authenticity. When you meet someone and you feel like how much they are or aren't authentic, or, if they are well-intentioned or not well-intentioned. Someone else might ask you to describe it and you might not know exactly what it is or pinpoint it, but it's just this gut feeling that you have. And I think people feel that when it comes to music, how the artist records a song.
I love that. Would you say you're someone, I'm just thinking as you're speaking, you're someone that knows who you are musically?
Over time, yes, I think so. I think where I'm at now, I'm very clear on who I am as an artist. And I think at different points, I was also clear on who I was during that time. So I'm very graceful with myself in the sense that I don't judge myself in retrospect or even during for where I am as an artist in terms of my identity, right? Because identity shifts, it's natural. And I think what ends up being sometimes unfortunate is when someone is too caught up in an identity of some sort and then they change, but then they still feel like they have to keep that up for a long time.
That's so true.
And, to some degree, I think there's always 2 types of artists. There's artists that are playing a character, and then there are artists that are themselves. And the second is a lot easier to do, but the first sometimes commercially translates sometimes better. So take like a Chappelle Roan or, a Sabrina Carpenter. They're playing very specific characters. Every time they show up, they look a very specific way. The narrative is written in a very specific way. And that does extremely well, by the way, a lot of times, right? But internally, it's very hard to keep up. It's almost like you're doing a Broadway show every day of the week for years. And so if you know what it takes to put on a Broadway show, that is incredibly tiring. But if you find it meaningful and it delivers the message that you want to deliver, then it's also very fulfilling, right? I've generally more and more found that I fit into the second bucket of me being as much as possible myself. And to lean into your authenticity and to lean into who you are, that first of all, that takes time. But then the second thing is it also takes a lot of vulnerability as well, to put yourself out there, to share who you are on multiple levels, not just in one area as well. So that's kind of the approach that I feel like I've generally taken and where I currently am. And even in retrospect, like to your question, I feel like I've been myself throughout every kind of part of my journey, even though they've been different. Looking at them in retrospect, you're like, oh, this is not the same guy like over time, but it's different sides of me that I've explored and I'm comfortable with all of them.
I can so relate to this. I've gone through a growth musically myself, and each and every chapter, which we're going to talk about, your confessions and everything in a moment, has been true to me. And I think like you said, it's harder when you're being your most truest, authentic self in music, for you to translate on a global scale sometimes at a quick pace, because you're not doing what is deemed as commercially the norm.
Yeah.
You're being a bit different, unique, but I feel that helps with identity, authenticity, and longevity. It depends what you're going for
100%
as well.
Yeah.
But I started off doing really hard kind of MCing. That's what I grew up. You know, I grew up on a council estate and used to that competitive MCing and clashing and battling. I started to grow naturally out of that, as you do musically, and more recently tapping into my Arab roots. And that's true to who I am. Because music to me, why did I create music in the first place? Did I do it to be famous and huge? Or did I just do it because it was part of my culture and my surroundings and what I grew up to? And it was definitely the latter. So you have to be true to yourself, or at all points. I mean, especially for me. And that's more fulfilling, for sure. Sometimes you get briefs, you know, as an artist. Sometimes I might need to write a song or get asked to help write or assist writing or assist production. Then you can be something or someone else for that individual. And that's more becoming a job you have to do, and be someone that maybe you're not writing a certain way that you wouldn't write for yourself. And that's the business side of it. So yeah, I feel you just have to be true to yourself at the end of the day. You started you called it the Confessions series. Tell us a bit about this Confession series. I was having a little nosy on your Instagram.
The Confession series is this very deliberate project that I decided to put together.
Yeah.
That essentially is a space for me to completely be who I am to the rawest sense on a month-to-month basis. So it's a project where I release one track every month.
Okay.
It could be 30 seconds long, it could be 2 minutes long. And it is just essentially a stream of consciousness of what I'm thinking about during that time, reflecting on the previous month. And, you know, I grew up to some degree like a hip hop head. So, you know, listening to some of my favorite artists like J. Cole. And one of the things that I really appreciated about him was that he always was very raw and authentic.
Very
and
true.
Veering into pop, there is this fine line between like hip hop and pop where you always, you know, with pop, there's a large focus a lot of times on melody and kind of, you know, going a direction where you write something that a lot of people can relate to, right? And with Confessions, frankly, to some degree, I'm at a place with Confessions that's not necessarily what I'm looking for per se. It's a project that I released more so kind of for like my kids and grandkids to listen to, of what was their dad, what was their grandfather thinking about or going through during that period of time. So it's a raw collection of my thoughts as I go about my life, essentially. And a lot of people have found it to be actually very interesting as a window into who I am in my life, because it's also sides of me that I don't really maybe share or show.
Yeah, it's vulnerability.
It's vulnerability. It's that vulnerability that we were talking about. And not trying to quote unquote make a hit. I'm not trying to make a hit when I write a confession song. And funny enough, sometimes that actually ends up leading to things that end up being a hit when you don't expect them to, because you're not trying to make a hit, essentially.
Oh, yes.
So that discussion, I could talk about that for like forever. But the point is, with Confessions, it is this raw, real space that I've carved for myself, because, and there's no pressure when I write a Confessions whatsoever. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't pressure some other times when I'm writing some of the pop songs that I make. As soon as I walk into the studio, I try to, you know, pull that out of me. So, and everyone around me knows that when I walk into that space, to try to, you know, peel back the layers, essentially, so that I'm my truest and rawest self. But with Confessions, I've created an intentional space where I can only, there's no way to go wrong. With music overall, there's no way to go wrong. But with Confessions specifically, it's the truest and rawest sense of who I am.
Nice. I want to talk about, is it Haliki, right? And this song to me really resonated for me as a woman. It felt like this letter to self-acceptance. What did that song mean to you? It was so powerful. How much did that song mean to you?
Haliki came from a very real place, just like a lot of songs. And Haliki means, Haliki zay ma inti means just stay as you are.
Yeah.
And it came from someone that I knew that was beautiful inside and out, but felt like because of societal peer pressure that she had to, make changes to herself, her face, her body. And I think had it not been, of the influence of what we see online these days, she wouldn't have felt badly about herself, or didn't feel like she had to really change just to appease, a certain demographic. And so I wrote that song for her, and from there, a lot of people, I think, related to it, because I think a lot of people relate to feeling that level of pressure, a lot of women specifically. So it just says Haliki zay ma inti, and it talks about, not having to cater or cave to societal peer pressure.
It was such a beautiful song. I felt emotional listening to it, because that's something when I was first starting out that I battled with. And that pressure of not just social media, but what others think of you, or how you should be as an artist, what's going to make you more successful as a music artist, especially as a woman. And these pressures are real, and they do exist, and still up until this day they exist. And I worry about the younger generations after, and how they're going to be impacted. So it takes a lot of power to stay true to yourself and not fall into these traps of changing who you are. And it's not easy, because there's so much unseen and unheard pressure around you that can make you question yourself, doubt yourself, make you think you're not good enough, you don't look good enough, and make you want to look a certain way, like you said, to appease others. But are you ever going to be happy internally? I don't know. So it's been a journey for me, and I'm so happy where I am now. Like you could say I'm Laughta, and see me, what you see is what you get. When I was first starting out, I did feel those pressures.
Yeah.
And
it comes across the board, frankly. Yeah. I know literal models who feel like, their nose needs to be a little bit more shaped this way. And for me, that baffles my mind, because just from an outsider looking in, just from an outside POV, I'm like, you're perfect, frankly. And so if, a model can feel that way, really anyone can, frankly. You know what I mean? Honestly, it applies to both men and women, I think, these days.
Absolutely. I think men feel the pressure too. We can't ever ignore that. I've even spoken to guys, and everyone needs a little boost and positive reinforcement, and external factors do exist and do pressurize us in different ways. I would say, for sure. Love everything you said. I feel we fully relate on this. I don't know, it sounds like another version of me speaking, if I'm honest. It's nice to hear, and we definitely need more artists to hear what you've spoken about today, and just people in general. There's so much everyone can learn from it. You're so philosophical, yet so musical and so creative. I'm here for it. What's next for you? What's in the pipeline?
Thinking where to start. Musically, there's so much currently going on. So for the past year and a half, I've just been making music consistently, very, very actively. And so at this point, we probably have somewhere around maybe 50 songs piled up of great songs, not some of the stuff that we scrapped or started and didn't finish and things like that. And so for a lot of that music, for me, over the next while is what I'm going to be releasing. And a lot of it is very meaningful to me. It has a lot of vulnerability, a lot of different parts of who I am as well. And this is even outside of Confessions. Confessions, I write them on a month-to-month basis. So it's real, it's current, it's real time. But everything I've written so far is very applicable, both, to be honest, for when I wrote it now, and when I write music, I think of them as like timeless, essentially. That's what I try to essentially instill, because not only am I trying to create music for who is currently alive today, but even 100 years from now, when they look at like the 20s. Now when we say 20s, we think of 1920s. When they say 20s in the future, they'll say, oh, it's the 2020s, essentially, right? So that's how they'll look back at it. So what music encapsulates this era, I would ideally like my music to fit within an era that people look back on and then can point to. So it's a lot of music. It's a lot that I'm excited for people to listen to over the next while.
I'm excited for all your music. I am a fan. Since I've been just delving in deeper to your music, I think you're going to have a very bright future. And you're just going to be Molham. You're not going to change. You're just going to be the same you, but you're going to have continue to have a lot of success. I appreciate
it. I'm going to just take so many snippets of like what you said today and just basically put them back to... I listen to them in the morning when I wake up. I'm like,
I mean it. I'm going to play a quick round of Spill the Tea, which is quick fire questions. You just answer the questions without giving it too much thought. First answer that comes to mind. Okay? One Arabic word that you always use.
Yalla.
Dream. That's funny. Same. Yeah. Dream collaboration: an Arab artist and one international too.
Arab artist. I'd probably say Marwan Musa.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Especially with some of the pop direction that I go into, such a nice contrast.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm here for it. Yeah. Right. That kind of does answer both really.
International artist, just to actually even think about that. Okay. Probably I'd say Russ.
Oh, do you know what? That's how I know you know who you are. Those collaborations, like, we need those. It's collaborations we never knew we needed, but we do. If you weren't doing music, what would you be doing?
The other things that I currently do outside of music, which is probably be a CEO.
Oh, CEO, right. Yeah. Okay, love it. Love to hear it. Who's your go-to music producer right now?
Baylouni.
Oh, yeah. Big shout out Baylouni.
That's my brother.
He's just such a nice guy as well, and he's super talented.
Extremely talented, way beyond people understand.
Yeah. By the way, I love how you play the guitar live. I forgot to mention that. I love that you can sing and play the guitar live. It's incredible. What's your most used emoji? Serious question.
He's a lot. But probably I'd say the fire emoji.
The fire. Oh right. Yeah. I think that's actually mine as well.
Yeah.
Guitar melody first or your vocal melodies?
Ooh. Vocal melody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Night in with your friends or out for dinner with them?
Oof. Night in.
Okay, you're a cozy person. Are you a morning person?
I'm trying to be.
Okay. I love it. Do you know what? That was great. Thank you. That was amazing. And I loved everything we spoke about. But before we wrap it up, I know you're all about community building as well. And this is what this show is about, supporting the talent, but also supporting one another. I'm trying to encourage artists to be supportive of other individuals within the music industry. Is there someone that you would like to pass the artist baton to and see next here on the Laughta Like Show?
J. Cole.
Oh, okay. I mean,
I'm not holding back.
That would be a dream. Yeah. That would be a dream. Hopefully, if he does come, then we'll have you here as well, because you would have manifested that with me.
There are no limitations.
Should we manifest that again, Martasim? You know what you got to
do. There are absolutely no limitations.
Yeah, well, hopefully we do see that. That would be that would be a real big goal.
But that's how big things happen, Laughta. You think them up here, and then they happen.
That's a nice way to end. Well, thank you for joining me here on the Laughta Like Show. You have been one of my favourites and most interesting guests, so thank you. And thank you for tuning in to the Laughta Like Show each and every week. You could catch me here at the same time, same place, with a different face as we continue to delve into the minds of the creatives shaping the future of the Arab world. By the way, don't forget, you could tune into my radio show on NBC Loud, the Laughta Like Show. I'll be getting into some of Molham's music and more. Stay tuned. It's your girl, Laughta.